Hi everyone, thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar. My name is Abby Young and I'm an account manager here at Your Overseas Home. Today we're going to be chatting with Jake Roscoe from Smart Currency Exchange about the financial considerations you should think about when moving abroad. As we navigate this important subject, we will not be looking towards traditional banks. Instead, we'll explore a compelling number of reasons and numerous benefits of choosing a currency specialist. It's great to have so many with you here today, whether you're watching live or on demand. Before you start your presentation, Jake, could you please just introduce yourself and what Smart Currency Exchange do?
Hi, Abby. Thank you very much for joining me today. My name is Jake Roscoe. I work for Smart Currency Exchange. We are a currency broker that's been established for over 20 years. And we specialize in overseas property. So I presume everyone on this webinar has an interest in overseas property. So hopefully I can help you along the way today and throughout 2025.
Perfect. Thank you, Jake. Jake's now going to share a presentation with us. Following this, we'll open up the floor for presentations. If you do have any questions as we go along, just type them in the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. We hope to answer as many queries as we can today. If we don't get around to them all, please don't worry. Any unanswered questions will be forwarded over to Jake and the team at Smart Currency Exchange. I'll now hand over to Jake just to finish his presentation.
Thanks, Abby. So today's presentation will be roughly about 15 minutes. We're going to play what I like to call a currency casino game. And then after that, we'll probably have about 10 or 15 minutes to answer some questions. So it's nice to see that there's, a lot of people, new year, new overseas property dream. It would be good to understand where you are on that journey. We've got people in research phase, which, you might be looking online on some portals, and you might be going to some property shows. We also have people, that have got an offer accepted or going on a viewing trip. So it'd be good to understand where you are on that journey, just so we know exactly how we can help you. So yeah, let's dive straight in. Hold on a second, my slides are not working, bear with me. Oh, there we go. So this is the 2024 Currency Casino. So I like a bit of a gamble every now and again, but would I gamble with this amount of money? Probably not, well, definitely not. So this is based off a £300,000 budget. This is how much currency risk you're susceptible to in euros throughout 2024. So this will be from the lowest point in 2024 to the highest point. This is how much difference it could have on your budget, not understanding your currency risk. So let's just talk a little bit about why exchange rates move. So there's probably people on the call that know a little bit more about it, a little bit less about it, but this just gives you an overview on why they move and how they move and when they're moving. As you can see on here, the currency markets are the most frequently traded on the planet. So they're constantly moving. They're constantly being traded on a daily basis. Therefore, they can be highly volatile at times. They can be affected by a lot of different economic and political factors. Not just interest rates, which has been quite a hot topic over the last sort of two years. Any sort of change in politics or any, for example, Donald Trump opens his mouth, we could see, rates go up and down, especially with the dollar. Like I said before, exchange rates are moving constantly, and market sentiment from investors and from, other countries in general can play a huge role in the markets, and they can be highly unpredictable. Some key influences over the last 24 months that do influence exchange rates. As we all know, political events can influence things. We've had UK election, French election, and a US election all in the space of a few months or just over a year. Change of government can also affect things. So, how much confidence investors and other countries have in certain governments. So as you know, here in the UK, we've had Boris Johnson all the way now to Keir Starmer, who's coming in, and with Rachel Reeves announcing, the first Labour budget for a few years in 2024, that didn't go down too well. So the markets are constantly keeping an eye on events and what's happening in different countries. And, the pound and the euro and the dollar, they're all moving against each other depending on the strength of each currency at the time. There can also be fiscal issues or problems or just news in general that can affect the markets as well, such as inflation has been a hot topic, like I was saying previously. We've had record levels of inflation over the past sort of year or two after COVID. Interest rates, have been super high as well, which are now being pulled down, but still relatively high in the UK, just under 5%. And we've also had a cost of living crisis in the UK and across other countries as well. So all these things can have an impact on where the markets are and where the markets are headed. I don't like to focus too much on geopolitical issues, but it is worth noticing that, with the issues we've got in Gaza, so there's been some news coming out recently of a possible ceasefire, which is good. And obviously the Ukraine war, these things do have an effect on, things such as supply chain issues and, petrol prices and other things. So these also have an effect on the markets as well. So basically, in summary, the markets are constantly moving and they're highly volatile, and they could be moved by any particular event. So this is pound euro in 2024. As you can see from the highest point to the lowest point, there's just over a 5% difference between the rates. As you can see here, it's highly volatile as well. So, for example, in between July and August, there was the big drop there. And even after December, moving into January this year, and we're not seeing the rates at 120, 121 anymore. We're down around about 118, between 118 and 119, just in the space of a few weeks. So, although this doesn't seem like a big shift, when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds, this can make a big difference. And like I said on my previous slide, this 5.3% difference over the year for a £300,000 budget, which is pretty average for us, could be a difference in just over 18,000 euros. Now, with this 18,000 euros, you could have yourself a nice pool in your villa. You could be paying for your legal fees and your notary fees, and you might even be able to get yourself a nice new car when you're buying an overseas property. So, every penny counts, especially nowadays, and it is important for you to understand your currency risk and how to outsmart the markets in 2025. So, what is currency risk? And how does it arise with a property purchase? As I was saying before, the markets are constantly moving. Therefore, you are susceptible to currency risk if you are purchasing a property in an overseas country. Now, this is a typical example of an overseas property purchase journey. As you can see there, on the left-hand side, we've got the research phase. Like I was saying before, it is, you might be looking on portals, you might be going to events, and then you might narrow down an area country and an area where you want to be buying a house overseas. And then you will go on what we call a viewing trip. As you probably know yourselves, this is the fun part, because you're going out and you're seeing loads of different properties, you're meeting a few different agents, and hopefully finding your dream home wherever that may be in the sun, hopefully. And then you'll make an offer, you'll get that offer accepted. And as soon as you've got this offer accepted, that's when you are susceptible to currency risk. So just as a easy example, your offer is accepted at 250,000 euros, which on day one could be 210,000 pounds. Now, between your offer being accepted and the completion of the property could be anywhere between 3 months to up to 12 months if you're looking at a new build property. then you have a period of time there where the markets are moving. So the difference between the price that the difference in the price in euros on day one could be completely different to the price on day 90, 120, whatever that day is. And this could end up costing you, up to 18,000 euros more. And in this example, it's 25,000 euros, which was a case from 25,000 pounds, which was a case from back in 2022 when things were a bit more volatile. So one thing to understand is that the currency market, no one's got a crystal ball. If I did, I wouldn't be here. I'll probably be on a beach somewhere, sipping a nice cocktail. So it's important to understand what your budget is and how much you can afford to risk with the currency fluctuations. What can you do about currency risk? This is a very good question that a lot of our clients ask us. Here at Smart Currency, we have what we call a forward contract. So essentially, a forward contract allows you to agree an exchange rate today for delivery in a period of time in the future. Now, this contract that we've got, it really ties in nicely with an overseas property purchase. Because like I was saying before, you average completion time for overseas property is around about 3 months. So say, for example, over the past couple of months, we've been trading at 2-year highs for GBP euro. If you want to capitalize on that rate and you're sure that you're going ahead with a property in Spain or anywhere in the Eurozone, then you might want to lock in that rate today. So like I said before, we're trading between 118 and 119 today. If you like that rate, we can lock that rate in for you or round about that rate. And then we will deliver that rate on the day of your completion, which could be in 90 days, around about 90 days. That means that all the currency risk in between now and your day of completion has been removed completely. And you know exactly how much you're going to be paying in pounds for that euro property on the day of completion. This is a real life example. I have used the rates from the back end of last year because I thought it's a lot more interesting to see current rates. We did have one in the past which showed us an extreme example from earlier on in the years. But let's just take this example here with Debbie and Richard. On the 11th of December last year, they find their dream villa for 300,000 euros. Pay a small reservation deposit on getting their offer accepted. And at the time, on the 11th of December, the cost of the property in pounds was £247,000. Now, if you look at the rate as today's rate on the 16th of Jan, with the rates that dropping between December and now, the total cost of their property has now gone up to £253,000. So their completion is on the 10th. So that in the space of just over a month, the house of their dreams is costing them just around about £6,000 more than it was doing last month. Now, on the 10th of March is their completion date. The total cost of the property in pounds is unknown because they don't know where the market's going to go. Now, in not using a forward contract, Debbie and Richard have no idea of how much their property is going to cost them in pounds on the day of completion. And this could, the worst case that we've seen before is a property costing £20,000 more for a client on the day of completion because they didn't know about forward contracts. So my question to you is why would you take that gamble? I certainly know I wouldn't, especially if you have something on the table there that can really remove all this risk from your completion. Another question that I like to ask my clients is, if you was buying a house in the UK, would you buy a house not knowing how much it's going to cost you on the date of your completion? I can imagine most people's answer is probably going to be no. So why would you do the same when you're buying a house abroad? It makes no sense. So here's 5 reasons to use a foreign exchange specialist for your overseas property purchase. This webinar is called How to Outsmart the Currency Markets in 2025. My main my main tip, should I say, is do your research, understand where the markets are, where the markets are moving. Make sure you know how much your budget is in the foreign currency before you even start looking. Prior planning and preparation is key to outsmarting the markets in 2025. And if you are super planned, then you might be able to save yourself quite a few £1,000s. Another tip from my side is agreeing your currency plan before you go on your viewing trip. This means that when you are actually in the country of where you're searching, you really understand how much you can afford to buy in euros. You've got a currency plan already in place. And then you just left to do all the fun stuff. You know how much you can afford, how much you can't afford, what properties you can look at, what properties you can't look at, and then you can go from there. Again, speaking about a forward contract before you go in, we've had clients in some cases actually lock in a forward contract before they've even found a property yet, because they're 100% certain that they're going to be doing it and they'd like to rate that they saw. Most of our clients do actually fix a forward contract on them getting their offer accepted, but it's not uncommon to see people do it before that as well. So if it is something that you are interested in, then the sooner you can look into it, the better. We're also here to help you with ongoing transfers. So ongoing transfers can be anything from an overseas mortgage. We can fix the rate up to for you up to 12 months for your monthly mortgage payment in euros. Another popular contract that we offer is a regular payment plan. So for people that are retired, we have quite a few customers that are retiring overseas. Same thing, they're getting a pension in pounds. They want to transfer that pension into euros. We can fix a rate of up to 12 months. So you know exactly how many euros you're going to be getting for your pounds that's coming in every month from your pension. And that can go straight into your bank of choice. Same with the ongoing transfer as well. So they're just a few reasons to use a foreign exchange specialist, and some reasons that your high street bank won't be able to provide for you. So here is the overseas property purchase in brief. Like I said before, speak to an expert early, understand your budget, agree your currency plan, make sure there's a lot of free information out there from us and from the internet in general. Just make sure you do your research and you've got someone that you can trust that's going to be helping you with that exchange of funds. Then find your dream property. Obviously, that's the exciting part. That's what we're all here for. My parents live in Spain as well, so I know how much of a fun part this is. Getting your offer accepted. Obviously, that day is super emotional, and like I said, it could be the start of the rest of your life. Execute your currency plan. So once you've got your offer accepted, we can be at the other end of the phone. And you can just tell us exactly how much you need to be sending and when, and we can have, reservation deposits paid within 24 hours. We can have 10% deposits paid. Any size of payment can be sorted on the phone once you've got your account open with us. And then obviously completion day, which is the going to the notary, or at least in Spain, notaire in France, and starting to enjoy your new home. So that's kind of the process in brief. We plug into that journey all the way from number 1 to number 5 and past number 5 as well. Like I said before, with mortgage payments or pension payments. So we can be with you every step of the way to help. So here's just a few, a bit of information on smart currency exchange and a few reasons why you should choose us for your overseas transactions. Like I said before, we specialize in overseas property. We deal with a lot of local estate agents in Spain, France, Portugal, Italy. We're also your overseas homes preferred currency partner, and we partner with other companies like Rightmove and Zoopla. We've been their exclusive currency partners for many years. We've been established for 20 years last year, so in our 21st year, so we're not going anywhere anytime soon. We know what we're doing, and we do this day in, day out. We've transferred over £12 billion over the 20 years and over 45,000 clients helped. As you can see there, we've Almost got a 5-star on Trustpilot as well, so please do check us out. And all our team is UK based, so I'm based in the office in London. We do have an office in Spain as well, and one of my colleagues works in France quite often as well. So, and another one works in Portugal. So we are, even though we've got a UK based team, we're also in other parts of Europe as well. And that's it from me. I hope it was of use to everyone on the webinar. If you scan the QR code, you can it'll take you to our account opening page. Opening an account is completely free, by the way. Takes 5 minutes. If you're based in the UK, you can do it either on the phone or online. There's no obligation to use us. And there's no fees until you actually decide to make a payment. So everything's super easy, and yeah, we're here to help people along the way. So please do get in touch if you need any help.
Thanks so much, Jake. We've actually got a couple questions from the audience, starting with one from Robert, who asks, going back to kind of one of your earlier slides where you were showcasing fiscal effects and geopolitical effects. He asks that you've mentioned some of the negative influences on currency exchange. What kind of activities would perhaps have a more positive influence on currency?
Oh, that's a good question. So yeah, I know I mentioned quite a few negative ones there, but there's also some positive ones as well. Like, for example, political situations can be positive. If a country's economic state is doing well, then that can be positive also. Unemployment rates, if they're low, for example, that can be positive. So there's plenty of positive things that can influence the markets in the right way. Donald Trump coming into power in the US has had a positive effect on the dollar. So yeah, even though I mentioned a few negative things, there can also be the same things can also influence markets positively as well. And that's what's happening. Like in each country, some effects in the UK might be negative, some in the US might be positive, or vice versa. There's always positive and negative stuff happening everywhere, and that's why the markets are constantly moving.
Yeah, which I guess is what makes it so volatile, which is why we can't guess what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Perfect. We kind of have I suppose two people have kind of asked a similar question. So George and Robert are both asking. George specifically states, the example provided with regards to Debbie and Richard. He says the example you've given justifies the forward contract, but kind of what happens if it goes the other way? But also kind of how much does a currency contract cost? And then Robert, in the same kind of vein, has asked what percentage is required to secure a forward contract for a fixed rate for a year?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we usually, I'll dissect the question into a few parts. So we usually take a 5% payment up front, so like a deposit to fix the rate for up to a year, for example. That obviously comes off at the end of the payment. So say, for example, you fixed a 12-month forward contract, we'll take 5% of the total amount on day one to fix that rate. And then the rest of the 95% in pounds you will pay on the day of completion, for example. This also works quite well if you've got funds, for example, in a high interest account in the UK. A lot of our clients do that. So they just take 5% out of what they've got in a high interest account, and then they've still earning interest for the 12 months until that day of completion. So that's usually how much we charge for the forward contract to be fixed. The second part of the question is we make our money from buying and selling currency. So the big banks are obviously buying and selling billions, trillions. We buy that off the banks almost close to market rate, which market rate isn't, or what we call interbank rate isn't available to individuals like me or yourself or anyone on this call. So that's where brokers come in. And then we will charge a small margin on that exchange rate to our clients. But every price that you hear on the phone or see online, all the fees are built into that price. So if you don't like what you're seeing online, or if you don't like the rate, then you don't have to take it, of course. And there's no hidden fees off the back end either. So that's kind of how the process works.
Perfect. And I mean, obviously Smart don't just offer forward contracts, right? There's so many different things that you offer to your clients. And I suppose that's one of the points you raised about having a currency plan. You'll also help the buyers with exactly what's the best solution for themselves.
Yeah, correct. Everyone's situation is different, so there's no one size fits all. Some people like to speculate a little bit more. So we've had cases where some people might put half of their budget on a forward contract, and then they'll play the markets a little bit with the rest of their budget, and if they're a bit more flexible with how much they can afford, to see if the market goes up or down. Once you're locked into a forward contract, you are removing the risk. But like I said, if the rate can go up or down from there. So you can't get a higher rate like 90 days down the line because that's not how it works. But you're just removing the risk, right? Which is, you're working, if you've got a certain amount of pounds that you have and, you haven't got any more than that, then that's when our clients usually fix a forward contract when they work into a tight budget and they want to know exactly how much they can afford in euros. But like I said before, everyone's situation is different. The best thing for you to do is have a chat with one of our team, and we can, work out what the best situation for you is and what we think you should be doing. But ultimately, it's your decision. And, we always listen to our clients with how they want to navigate the currency markets and their overseas property purchase.
Definitely. And we have a question here from Caroline. I don't know, I'll ask you, Jake, although I'm not sure if this also might be relevant for some of our other partners. It's a little bit more kind of specific to Caroline personally. She's asking if she sells a property in the UK with the intent of using the proceeds to purchase property in Portugal. She has an offshore bank account. Should she put the funds into equity in this or keep it in a UK bank account? I'm not sure if you want to comment on that or if that might be something we can help Caroline with here at Your Overseas Home.
Yeah, I think it's probably best you helping her with that. We have to, if she's got an intent of an overseas property purchase, then we can make the exchange, but we can't hold funds in pounds, for example, for her. We're not a bank. So we have to send the funds somewhere or have a contract saying that the funds will be sent somewhere by a certain date in a different currency. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, perfect. Caroline, I'll ask one of my colleagues to get in touch with you following this webinar. We've got a great contact who'll be able to kind of give you some guidance on that topic. George has asked another question, actually. He wants to know if you guys are FCA regulated and if the monies paid are guaranteed up to 85k.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I forgot to mention that on my presentation. Yeah, we are completely FCA regulated. So yeah, your money's protected up to £85,000. We also buy our currency off Barclays. So, Barclays also have we have a big insurance with Barclays as well. So your funds are protected. Like I said to you before, we've been around for 20 years. We've not just been here for 1 or 2 years. If you check out our company's house as well, you can see that we are very liquid. And yeah, like I said, just check out the trust pilots as well. Your funds are protected.
Perfect. And one final question, going back to something you mentioned earlier. You said it was important kind of as stage one to do your research. We have a question here asking, I don't know anything about currency markets and don't really understand them. Does Smart provide any kind of useful information or updates on currency markets that can be used to kind of understand this better and do that research?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. We release a quarterly forecast. So I think it actually went out yesterday. You can download that off on our website. If you do sign up to Smart Currency, you'll go on what we call our daily currency note, which every morning our CEO will drop an email into your inbox, and it'll give you a brief update on what's been happening over the past day or two, or last week or so. And we also send out rate alerts as well. So if you're looking for a certain rate, or if you're trying to target a certain rate and it hits that, we usually send out rate alerts when there's something worth shouting about. We also have another contract as well, which I forgot about, which is an order to buy. So if you are, say, for example, you are trying to target 120 as a rate. If you speak to one of our account managers, they'll be able to put in what we call an order to buy. So if that rate hits at any point throughout the night, throughout the day, it will just trade the amount that you want to trade on your behalf without you having to pick up the phone or do anything online. So that's another contract that we provide here at Smart Currency. But like I said before, there's so many different things. Everyone's case is different. So feel free to get in touch with us. We don't bite, and we're happy to help.
Perfect. I think that's about all that we're going to have time for today. There should be some links appearing on your screen now. The first one will be for our Trustpilot. If you've enjoyed today's session, please feel free to leave us a review on Trustpilot. Additionally, on March 22nd this year, we're hosting our biannual virtual event. You can come and meet all of our partners, chat with people like Jake, any estate agents, things like that. It's a great day to get your plans started and meet some of our team. So we look forward to joining you there. We obviously recommend that you do get in touch with Jake as soon as possible to discuss your details in requirement and to discuss your requirements in detail. We'll be in touch with their details shortly, but you can also use the screen in front of you and scan the QR code. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's been very helpful to understand a little bit more about how Smart can help. If any of your questions were not answered today, we will pass them over to Jake or anyone who will be able to give you some relevant information. And thanks so much for your time, everybody. Happy property hunting.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good evening. Thanks, Abby.
Thanks, Jake.
Take care.